Hello everyone, my name is James Cole, and I'm 44 years old. I never expected to be sharing something like this, especially not after spending the bulk of my life steeped in scientific research. But what happened to me changed everything I believed about reality, about life and death, and even about what lies beneath the ice of Antarctica. This is my story. One I hope you'll keep an open mind about. Because whether you trust it or not, the events I'm about to describe are as real to me as the ground under my feet. I've always prided myself on being a man of science. As a geophysicist, I focused on observable facts, equations, and data sets rather than myths or conspiracies. I spent years studying the frozen expanses of Antarctica, analyzing seismic readings and geological formations. To me, nature held enough wonder and mystery without venturing into the realm of the supernatural. Then came February 12th, 2025, the day that took my life in a direction I could never have predicted. On that morning, I was part of a specialized expedition tasked with investigating some curious electromagnetic signals that we'd detected beneath the Antarctic ice. These signals weren't just random bursts of energy, they pulsed at intervals that defied anything we could label as natural. Some suggested these pulses might hint at geothermal hotspots or even hidden lakes. At the time, I was simply excited to learn something new about our planet. I had no idea that these signals would lead me to one of the most shocking discoveries of my life. Our research camp was set up near a drilling site in one of the remotest sections of Antarctica. The sun barely skimmed the horizon, giving us just a few hours of daylight. On that particular morning, I noticed a feeling of unease in my stomach, a dull intuition that something wasn't quite right. I brushed it off as normal anxiety. After all, Antarctica can be a harsh place, and working in sub-zero conditions is never easy. We began the drill work around 7 a.m. Our plan was to go deeper than we had before. We were targeting a zone that had shown the strongest anomalies, low-frequency vibrations that our instruments couldn't fully explain. The day started out like any other research day, methodical, full of problem-solving challenges, and overshadowed by the raw beauty and danger of this icy wilderness. But as the hours rolled by, things got strange. Our GPS devices started glitching, radio communications picked up weird static, almost like whispers. Honestly, it felt like the entire environment was protesting our presence. Then, at exactly 11:42 a.m., disaster struck. A fissure opened under my feet without warning. The very ground, which had been solid moments earlier, suddenly collapsed. My colleague, Lena, screamed my name on the radio. That frantic shout was the last thing I heard before plummeting into darkness. In that fraction of a second, I expected pain, cold, fear. But what came next was far beyond any normal human experience. I found myself suspended in a calm, dreamlike state. I could see my own body sprawled at the bottom of the crevasse, limbs bent in ways they shouldn't be, as rescue alarms echoed from above. Yet I felt no pain whatsoever, only an overwhelming peace and the strangest sense of detachment. It was as if my consciousness was watching the accident from a vantage point outside my physical form. When I say I felt no pain, I truly mean it. There was no shock, no terror, no racing heartbeat. Instead, I was enveloped in a strange, serene calm. While I processed this bizarre sensation, I noticed figures in white standing near the edge of the fissure above. They glowed with a soft, comforting brightness. Their faces weren't clear, but their presence radiated a love and power that went beyond words. Suddenly, I felt a gentle but insistent pull, as if some unseen force was guiding me upward. I turned away from my broken body at the bottom of the crevasse and found myself gliding toward a tunnel of pure light. This wasn't just a bright hallway, it felt alive, humming with an otherworldly energy. Every part of me somehow recognized that I was crossing a boundary most people never traverse while still in their earthly bodies. Then a voice spoke my name, James. It was a voice that filled my entire being with warmth and hope. It resonated through every fiber of what I now realized was my spirit. There was no doubt in my mind whose voice this was, Jesus. I can't explain exactly how I knew, but in that instant, all the skepticism I had about faith or an afterlife vanished. It was as though I recognized a presence that had always been there, just beyond the edge of my perception. He told me I had been brought there for a reason, that I needed to see something and share it. The next few moments, or maybe they were hours, I can't measure time in that realm, became a cascade of visions and revelations that shattered every scientific assumption I held dear. In a sudden shift, the place around me changed. Gone was the tunnel of living light. Instead, I looked down upon Antarctica from a vantage point far above the Earth. It was like seeing the continent through divine eyes. Where the ice should have been featureless and rugged, I perceived structures, a network of buildings, cities even, buried beneath miles of snow and frozen water. Some of these formations looked geometric, almost like futuristic architecture, while others seemed older, reminiscent of ancient civilizations that history claims never existed in Antarctica. Jesus spoke gently, explaining that these hidden constructs were far older than recorded human history, sealed away for reasons beyond ordinary comprehension. The Antarctic ice walls, those towering edges of the continent that explorers have described for centuries, weren't simply natural phenomena, they were seals. They had been placed there by a power higher than any government on Earth to keep something contained. In my vision, I saw glimpses of high-level meetings between global leaders who were well aware of the secrets beneath the ice. Plans were being made to gradually reveal these mysteries to the public as an incredible archaeological or extraterrestrial discovery. But what I saw next brought a chill that dwarfed the coldest Antarctic night. There were dark entities lurking in that buried city, entities older than humanity itself, waiting for the moment the seals would be broken. The images shifted again, showing me glimpses of a near-future scenario. I saw news conferences with politicians and scientists standing at podiums, announcing groundbreaking findings in Antarctica, artifacts and technologies that would allegedly prove we've misunderstood our origins. The entire world would be told that these hidden things beneath the ice represented the next leap in human evolution. They would say it was a gift for humanity, a path to global unity and unprecedented progress. Yet, in my vision, I saw the strings behind this grand stage. A malevolent force orchestrated these events using deception so subtle and alluring that countless people would embrace it wholeheartedly. These ancient beings, whatever they truly were, would not present themselves as evil. Instead, they would masquerade as friends or even creators, claiming to guide humanity into a new golden age. Jesus' voice resonated again, warning me, Satan's greatest weapon has always been deception. He will not force the world into submission. He will make them crave the lie. And that was the real danger, that billions of people would willingly believe in a false salvation if it promised comfort, progress, and a sense of transcendent purpose. I realized then that the vision was not just a spectacle I was being shown. It was a call to action. I felt an urgency in my spirit, a need to warn people about what was coming. I wanted to protest, to ask how to convince anyone of such a staggering conspiracy. But Jesus simply spoke to me again, with infinite patience. Your task is not to force them to believe, but to speak the truth. Those who seek light will recognize it. The landscape around me changed once more, revealing a time when technology offered humanity incredible boons, cures for terminal illnesses, new sources of energy, extended lifespans. It was as if we had finally harnessed cosmic secrets. But the cost? I saw lines of people enthusiastically receiving an upgrade, something that fused with them, granting immediate improvements in health and mental acuity. Governments and spiritual leaders alike praised it as a miracle. Yet in the spiritual realm of my vision, I watched a flicker in each recipient's essence, like a candle being snuffed out. Their connection to God was severed. They still walked and talked, but a part of their soul had dimmed. The voice broke through my sorrow. That is the mark, James. It will come as a choice wrapped in promise, not as a mandate in chains. Before I could fully digest these revelations, Jesus turned to me, and the scene faded into that radiant tunnel of living light. His final words to me, in that reality beyond physical senses, were etched into my soul. Return, James. Warn them. Share what you have seen, for the time is short. With that, the heavenly brightness dissolved. Suddenly, I was gasping for breath in a hospital bed, startled medical staff hovering around me. I could still feel the chill of Antarctica in my bones, but I was alive. One doctor shouted in shock that my heart had stopped for nearly 12 minutes. By all medical standards, I should have been gone. Yet my eyes were open, and my mind was buzzing with the memories of all I had witnessed. Regaining consciousness was disorienting. I remember nurses checking my vitals, while the lead physician asked me if I had any recollection of what happened. I tried to speak, but my words came out in a raspy whisper. Jesus, Antarctica, deception. As you might expect, most of them looked at me like I'd suffered a severe hallucination or a traumatic head injury. But one nurse, who must have heard enough stories or maybe felt some inner stirring, listened intently, tears welling in her eyes. She didn't see me as a lunatic. She saw a man who had just experienced something profound. In the weeks that followed, I struggled with the enormity of what I'd been shown. I tried going back to my normal job, reviewing data and analyzing seismic shifts, but it all felt shallow compared to the gravity of the revelation I carried. I still had trouble sleeping. My dreams were filled with those same images: hidden ice cities, ominous shapes moving underground, and world leaders plotting how to reveal this to humanity on their own terms. As the nightmares persisted, so did the drip of official announcements about Antarctica. Mainstream news channels began alluding to major discoveries, odd structures discovered via satellite, unprecedented heat signatures deep below the surface. My colleagues, who had always dismissed fringe theories, started whispering among themselves that maybe there was more going on, something big. Despite the fear that people would label me a crank, I knew I had to speak out. Quietly at first, I reached out to friends and family, sharing my testimony. Some reacted with compassion, others were polite, but clearly skeptical. I told them about the vision, about the deception that was brewing. I didn't push. I just asked them to keep an eye on unfolding events and to stay rooted in faith rather than scientific pride or curiosity alone. Then one day, I received an encrypted message from someone claiming to be a former government contractor who had participated in classified Antarctic expeditions. His words were succinct and chilling. "You're not wrong, James. They've known for decades. It's already too late. After that, he vanished. No further messages, no trace of his email address. I was left with a swelling dread that maybe the wheels were already turning too fast to stop. Yet I also felt a glimmer of resolve. If time was short, then I needed to warn as many people as possible, as plainly as possible. Regaining consciousness was disorienting. I remember nurses checking my vitals, while the lead physician asked me if I had any recollection of what happened. I tried to speak, but my words came out in a raspy whisper. Jesus, Antarctica, deception. As you might expect, most of them looked at me like I'd suffered a severe hallucination or a traumatic head injury. But one nurse, who must have heard enough stories or maybe felt some inner stirring, listened intently, tears welling in her eyes. She didn't see me as a lunatic. She saw a man who had just experienced something profound. In the weeks that followed, I struggled with the enormity of what I'd been shown. I tried going back to my normal job, reviewing data and analyzing seismic shifts, but it all felt shallow compared to the gravity of the revelation I carried. I still had trouble sleeping. My dreams were filled with those same images: hidden ice cities, ominous shapes moving underground, and world leaders plotting how to reveal this to humanity on their own terms. As the nightmares persisted, so did the drip of official announcements about Antarctica. Mainstream news channels began alluding to major discoveries, odd structures discovered via satellite, unprecedented heat signatures deep below the surface. My colleagues, who had always dismissed fringe theories, started whispering among themselves that maybe there was more going on, something big. Despite the fear that people would label me a crank, I knew I had to speak out. Quietly at first, I reached out to friends and family, sharing my testimony. Some reacted with compassion, others were polite, but clearly skeptical. I told them about the vision, about the deception that was brewing. I didn't push. I just asked them to keep an eye on unfolding events and to stay rooted in faith rather than scientific pride or curiosity alone. Then one day, I received an encrypted message from someone claiming to be a former government contractor who had participated in classified Antarctic expeditions. His words were succinct and chilling. "You're not wrong, James. They've known for decades. It's already too late." After that, he vanished. No further messages, no trace of his email address. I was left with a swelling dread that maybe the wheels were already turning too fast to stop. Yet I also felt a glimmer of resolve. If time was short, then I needed to warn as many people as possible, as plainly as possible. So, I decided to write down everything. This entire account of my near-death experience, the visions Jesus showed me, and the coming deception tied to Antarctica. Even though I've spent years adhering to academic standards and logical thinking, I can't deny what happened. It was more real to me than anything I've ever studied. I may lose professional respect for sharing this, but my conscience won't allow me to stay silent. If you're hearing this, I beg you to remember a few key points. Major announcements are coming. The global media will soon start releasing details about discoveries beneath the Antarctic ice, technological marvels, ruins of ancient civilizations, or something that challenges everything we know about human history. They will present it as a positive leap. Leaders will frame these revelations as the start of a new era, offering breakthroughs in medicine, energy, and even human evolution. It will be presented as a unifying moment for the entire world. A deception at its core. Based on what I was shown, there is a spiritual and malevolent force behind these events. The ancient entities under the ice are not our friends or benevolent guides. They are part of a larger plan to distort faith and lure humanity into surrendering something far more precious than we realize. The mark will be appealing, not forced. Eventually, there will be a push for some kind of upgrade or advancement that promises to solve countless human problems. People will rush to accept it. Understand, it won't come with threats at first. It will come with seductive promises of a better life. But it will sever your deeper connection to the divine. Stay grounded in faith and truth. Turn to Jesus. Pray. Don't rely solely on what authorities or news outlets say, no matter how credible they may seem. The layers of deception are intricately woven, and only true spiritual discernment can cut through it. I know how all this sounds. I was once the most skeptical person you could imagine. But you don't go through something like I did, literally dying and being shown a glimpse of eternity without emerging forever changed. My hope is that even if you scoff at the idea of such a grand conspiracy, you'll keep a fragment of this message in the back of your mind. Because when the day comes that these so-called revelations about Antarctica hit the global stage, you might recall this testimony and think twice before accepting everything at face value. After I was discharged from the hospital, I tried contacting more people in science and media. Some responded politely but didn't believe me. Others never replied. A few, though, confided that they'd heard rumors about classified drills and hidden digs that were never reported. Even they seemed uneasy discussing it. It was almost as if they felt an invisible presence, monitoring their words. For a while, I wrestled with the idea of returning to Antarctica. Some part of me wanted to gather physical proof, but I realized quickly that I didn't need to see more. I had been shown everything necessary. Proof wouldn't change most people's minds anyway. And perhaps I was also a bit afraid that if I went back, I might not return alive this time. So here I am, sharing my story with you in the simplest way I can. I don't have all the answers, nor do I claim to be some great prophet. I'm just a man who died for 12 minutes and was granted a revelation that blew open the boundaries of what I believed to be possible. I was shown a cosmic battle playing out beneath our feet and across the expanse of this world, one that isn't covered in any geology textbook or scientific journal. It's a fight, I realized, that's ultimately about the human soul, about how easily we can be led astray by promises of progress if we lose sight of eternal truth. The phrase spiritual warfare used to make me cringe. Now, I understand it's not just a saying, it's a literal reality. The final thing I want to emphasize is this: you have a choice. When the deception starts rolling out, and trust me, it's already in motion, you can either blindly follow the narrative, or you can pause and consider another perspective. Seek guidance through prayer. Keep your heart open and question every piece of evidence placed before you. Because deception rarely arrives with a scary face. It arrives dressed in everything you've ever hoped for, especially if you've felt hopeless in a broken world. If I could leave you with a single takeaway from my near-death experience, it's that light and love are real forces, and they originate from a source infinitely greater than we can measure. Scientific instruments can't capture it. Mathematical models can't describe it. It's something you feel deep in your spirit, the same spirit that will endure long after your body fails. I'm thankful for the chance to come back and share this. Even if just a handful of people take it to heart, then it will have been worth it. My hope is that when the grand announcements from Antarctica begin, you'll remember this story. You'll recognize the script as something orchestrated long ago. And maybe, just maybe, you'll step aside from the flood of excitement and ask the deeper questions. Thank you for listening. Whether you believe every word or remain unsure, I appreciate you taking this journey with me. I pray you'll keep your eyes open and your heart grounded in truth when the day arrives. And it may be sooner than any of us would like to think. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay connected to the one truth that goes beyond all science and all deception: the love and salvation offered by Christ. If I learned anything in that brief time on the other side, it's that He is real and He's our only sure foundation in a world that's about to be shaken to its core. God bless.